Are we live? Is it live? Yes, I think it is. Hey, folks, my name's Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. And, Apple released some news today, so I figured I would just come on in here and talk about said news. Yeah. So, hey, Junwee? So, I'm going to talk a little bit about this Apple sales report just because I was very interested in it. And from there, we will go on to have some discussions. So let's go to the videotape here in a second and look at the story from The Verge first. It says here, Apple sold 77.3 million iPhones over the holidays, but still fell short of estimates. So what does that mean? Apple brought in $83 billion in revenue this past quarter, on target for with the 84 to 70 billion dollar sales figure. So, in terms of the iPhone, 77.3 million iPhones were sold, and Apple's sales are up 13%. So these are better numbers than what were reported last week, I guess. So that's good. Right? Sure, that's good. And let's see. Tim Cook says iPhone 10 surpassed our expectations and has been our top-selling iPhone every week since it shipped in November. Okay. So straight from the horse's mouth. We've also achieved a significant milestone with our active installed base of devices, reaching 1.3 billion in January. That's an increase of 30% in just 2 years, which is a testament to the popularity of our products. So iPhone, and then they've got another story here that says iPhone 10 is an underrated masterpiece. I don't know that it can be underrated when it's been so talked about, so polarizing. It is a good phone, but underrated it may or may not be. I haven't read the article though. So Apple has here their own report from their newsroom, quote unquote. That is, it says Apple reports. They're talking about themselves in the third person. Okay, Apple reports first quarter results. That's a scintillating headline. Okay. Revenue and EPS hit all-time records. I don't know. 1.3 billion in. So this means that there are 1.3 billion iPhones active in the world at this moment. That's a lot of iPhones, right? So revenue between gross margin, operating expenses. So I'm going to turn back to the chat now, and let's talk about this. And get. Let's talk about this. Oh man, somebody's cussing in here already. No cussing. So let's talk about this. Insane Clown Posse. Okay. Uh, nice to see you, David Stevens. Cody, hey man, good to see you. Ryan, good to see you. So let's go ahead. Clorox bleach. Cigar. Okay, be nice. IMSU Music Mike, and hey Albert, how you doing? So what do you guys think about these numbers from Apple? These reports of their better sales than were reported last week. So it seems like they came pretty close to their projection, but they were still under that projection by a little bit. Hello, Sunil. Nice to see you. Hi, Mary. Y-Town 4, Apple, the iPhone has jumped the shark. Yes, I love that phrase. I love that phrase. Albert, explain to me like the damage control because I know that statistics can be used in a lot of different ways. Apple doesn't release the specific numbers sold of iPhones per model. But they say in this Verge article that the iPhone 10 has been their number one selling phone since it was released. So, well, David, yes, it's true. Selling the most does not mean being the best. It's that would be a false conflation of, but they are claiming that they've done much better with the sales numbers than was reported before. Give what away? I might give. I've got some stuff coming in. There may be a giveaway of more stuff here. Still waiting on some people from the giveaway from at the end of last year to get in touch with me. So maybe some giveaway. But what do you guys think about this? Statistics can be made to say whatever you want them to say. So I know that that's a thing. And so I'm curious to know like what do you guys think about Apple's numbers? I don't see any way to really sort of poke holes in it. Uh, so I don't know. Well, yeah, I believe the iPhone should have outsold the older models. The thing is like uh, if it's their number one selling model, that doesn't mean, correct me if I'm wrong, that doesn't mean that it was the that wasn't well outsold by, you know, the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, which is something that we learned was pretty much the case back last week. So I think that we can sort of interpret a little bit that while it might have been the best-selling model singularly, as a group there might have been others sold uh, that sold more. So Albert says Apple is only publishing details now that shareholders are getting worried. Yeah, I guess so. I it's one of those things where I think shareholders, I I'm sort of I don't know about shareholders. I think you always have to do what's best for your business and your business interests. But shareholders own the company, so you gotta let them do their thing. Let me pop this out. How do I pop out? Come on, it used to be easy. Um, Hold on a second. So Derp Ferguson says, sounds a bit like they have too much confidence in their brand not to say they shouldn't, given the popularity, but having $1,000 phone seems a bit too much for the average consumer. I think you're right, and I think that one thing that we are seeing in some of these numbers is that Apple pushed the limit, um, and they pushed the limit, and there were enough people not willing to pay that kind of money for a phone, and I guess that's okay. Um, so the thing that I'm concerned about is, and I think Apple should be concerned about. Sorry, I'm just trying to do things on the computer so I can see what you guys are saying and what I'm trying to do. What I think Apple should be concerned about is that this is one of the first times where the Apple tax has maybe come back and bit them in the rear end. Uh, Again, they put out these numbers, and we can we can say, oh yeah, these numbers are better, but um, how do they really break down? Because I have a feeling that the 8 and 8 Plus sold a lot more than the 10. And somebody left a comment, I think on the Facebook group earlier today, that said when there was the shortage of iPhone 10s its at the beginning of its life, and people couldn't get the phone, that then people decided, well, I'll go for the 8 or I'll go for the 7 or whatever. And so there was a window there where they could have sold more, but they didn't because they weren't available. I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? So, is Apple really aiming at the average consumer? I would say yes. I mean, that's one reason that they have 8 different models of the iPhone out right now. Is they they are definitely trying to cover all their bases. They've got phones available from $350 to $1,149. So I and these numbers say that they've got $1.3 billion, or $1 billion, no, sorry, 1.3 billion iPhones uh, in service at this moment, which that's a lot of iPhones. I don't think that any other phone manufacturer can claim to have on their own that many installs or phones in service. I know that Android beats Apple by just the sheer number of Android phones available. So Android's got more phones in service overall, but no one company has anything close to 1.3 billion in service. Uh, and I know that, yeah, Sunil, that's what I've been hearing. That in India and other places around the world, that the iPhone 10 prices are even more inflated than they are here in the U.S. And that's a that's a hard sell. But these numbers also said that Apple has been doing I think 65% of the sales that they reported today of iPhones came in China and in India. That's a large number. There, and I know that they've been trying to get into the Chinese market specifically, but in China they have so many Android phones that are reasonably priced that uh, an overpriced iPhone is a harder sell, I would imagine. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. If they have sold 65% of their units through those two countries, then that's pretty good. But I don't think they were selling iPhone 10s hand over fist in those countries, especially since uh, they're so expensive, like more so than they are here in the U.S. and in other places. Yeah, the OnePlus 5T is more than half the price here. So so you're saying that the OnePlus 5T, yeah, it's a $500 phone that has all the features of a flagship phone, and OnePlus has figured out a way to make the phone by not marketing it in putting it in stores. They're able to make a good phone that has all the features and doesn't cost $800 or $1,000. I've got the OnePlus 5T right now. I've been using it for a couple of weeks, and I'm gonna have a review. I'm gonna record the review probably tomorrow or Saturday, and I'll have it up soon. DBJR74. Consider yourself shouted out. Uh, the Google Plus phone thing, I don't know what that is. Note 8 is better than the iPhone 10. It's I shouted you out, DBJR. Anyway, um, the OnePlus 5T costs less than the replacement back glass of the iPhone. This is true. But one thing I found out is that um, the iPhone does not. They don't actually replace the back glass when you bring it in to be replaced. They they just give you a new phone. So somewhere there's like a graveyard of broken backed iPhone 10s just sitting out there. Maybe they refurbish them. I don't know. It could be that it's just so difficult. Um, it's just so difficult to replace that glass that they just don't do it. So E46 BMW, ultimately it's going to come down to personal preference if you're willing to spend that type of dollar for a phone or of that. Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of people in the world that absolutely cannot afford to buy a phone of that costs that much, and I totally get that. It's a stretch. It's a stretch for the majority of people, I would say. Uh, so you're saying that? Well, I don't know about. I don't know what the actual iPhone cost is. We'll never know that. We know little bits and pieces from leaks that like that the Samsung screen that they use for the iPhone 10 costs anywhere from 120 to $130 per unit, which is like a super crazy price considering that the LCD screens that they use for like the 7 and the 7 Plus, those cost like $45 or $50, $55 I think. So Xbox or PlayStation? Well, I have both. I play on PlayStation more, but I don't have anything against the Xbox. I like the exclusives on PlayStation are much more interesting to me than the exclusives the uh, on the Xbox. So hey, I'm working with this new mic. I got this new mic tonight. It was waiting for me when I got home from the folks over at GearBest.com. They sent me this mic. It's a cool looking mic, but sort of inexpensive. I think it was like $35. And so tell me what you think. How does this mic sound? Because I hear it in here, and it sounds pretty good to me. But I don't know if it's sounding good to you because I can turn up my headphone volume, and maybe I don't have enough volume out there. Shout out from Chicago, Sub-Zero guy. Thank you, man. Chicago is only 3.5 hours away from me. Casual Spy, hey, good to see ya. Not bad for $35. Is it loud enough? Are you guys getting the signal you need? Because I can futz with it. So Ed Bourgeois is saying, good job of maintaining brand image value. Yeah, that's Apple's game, is selling them. They've created an entire lifestyle brand out of their products, and they do it really well. Just today, though, I saw their little video ad for the HomePod, and it just ticked me off. Like again, they're like revolutionary, magical, blah blah blah. Um, and it just ticks me off because I don't know how many times over how many years have they used the word magical to describe their devices, and it's sort of like it can't be magical that often. Will I be getting the S9 or S9 Plus? I hope to. I am trying to figure out, I don't know at what point it's really feasible to start getting review units. That's what I'd really like to do because my Verizon account is just, my Verizon account hates me. And my wife is not happy with the Verizon account either. So, because I've got like 6 or 7 lines right now. We've got 3 phones and an iPad. And the rest of the lines I just added because I needed to get these phones to review. So hopefully soon, as the channel continues to grow, I'll be able to get in on some review units. The OnePlus 5T that I had to review came to me from GearBest.com as well. So uh, that's exciting. It's cool. Um, so Derp Ferguson, yes, magically expensive. It is funny how it just all of a sudden does that. What features do Apple? Corey Wilson says, what features do Apple need to include on their next phone to make them more attractive to Galaxy users? That's a good question. Uh, I don't think that wireless charging was enough. I'm looking at iOS 11 on the iPad and how much more feature rich it is than iOS 11 on the iPhone. And I think they need to start thinking about how to expand what what they can do with the iPhone operating system. I don't think they're gonna go and like let us move things around and put widgets on the screen and all that. Uh, the iPhone's camera is always competitive. It's always really good. The new camera that the iPhone, the S9 and S9 Plus are coming out with is supposed to be like brand new, blah blah blah. And I, of course, haven't seen anything about it other than it's supposed to be really good and a different camera than what they've been using for the past few models. So there's that, and then there's the graphene battery, which I haven't done a ton of research on, but what I understand, at least for general a general understanding, is that these graphene batteries charge faster and maybe last longer. If anybody knows anything more about the graphene batteries, maybe chime in and let me know. iPhone 11 will just be the box. Maybe. You know, I think I'm waiting for the moment that we get those like slabs of glass that are translucent, and then we can. Uh, th- would that be good? Samsung's also releasing the Galaxy X this year, which is a foldable phone. It unfolds like this, and it has a foldable screen. Samsung's been showing off these foldable screens for years, and now finally they're putting out a phone with a foldable screen. But I'll tell you what, I have no interest whatsoever in like a clamshell foldable phone. So if that's what the Galaxy X is, I think it's not going to be something that people buy. Maybe they don't want. Maybe it's not intended to be something that people buy. But the whole idea of foldable screens is an interesting idea. But the whole thought process about phones is going to have to change before we can really get that technology in. So Ahmad, thanks for stopping by. Let's see. Sub Zero guy says, I'm wondering, do you think facial recognition camera on the iPhone 10 have a limited lifespan? The longer that the iPhone 10 has been out, the more I've heard reports of the phone being able to be unlocked by multiple people, the phone being able to be unlocked by just putting it up to somebody's face while they're sleeping, and that it is, and we know this, that it is slower to unlock than Touch ID. I think that Apple, much like Samsung, wanted to get Touch ID underneath the screen and couldn't do it, so they went and did this whole Face ID thing. But one thing, it's so interesting to me. I went back yesterday and looked at the videos that I'd done about the iPhone 10 from all the way back before it came out, all the way through this. And the interesting thing about that coverage is that I did a video that said, what if the iPhone 10 fails? And then last week I did a video asking the question, did the iPhone 10 fail? And now here we sit somewhere in between, depending on how you look at the statistics and read the spin from Apple's marketing people and PR people. I don't necessarily disbelieve what they're saying, but I know that they're going to take those statistics and they're going to shine the most positive light on them. So, yeah. Is the Note 8 worth $950? Well, I have a Note 8 right here. I went back to the Note 8, and $950 is a lot of money. And so I don't know that I could say, yes, it's worth $950, but I will say that the Note 8 gives you a ton more features. It doesn't make any sense. many, many, many more features, and it just has a lot more that you can do with it specifically, uh, that maybe is an argument for the higher price. Um, but at the same time, like, this is more of a niche phone where people who want to have the S Pen and need to use the S Pen and just want a powerhouse phone that can get them through a lot of actual productivity as well as be a good phone. That's where the Note is pointed. So I I've always liked the Note phones. I don't I find that sometimes because there are so many features, and this is a problem with Android phones that go beyond stock Android, because there's so many features, it gets kind of overwhelming to figure it out. But uh, do I have an iPhone 10? I had two iPhone 10s. One got stolen in a scam on eBay because I bought two. Basically, what happened was I pre-ordered one, and then I realized that it wasn't going to be delivered until later in the day. It didn't end up coming until after 8 o'clock, the day that I the day that they were being released, and I didn't want to lose out on being able to do some really quick unboxing coverage, that kind of thing. So the I went to my Verizon store, and they happened to have some iPhone 10s available. So I ended up with two. I sold one on eBay. It was a scam. It was a scam. Somebody was like using a dummy account or something. I couldn't quite figure it out. I did get my money back, so that's good. And the other iPhone 10 I used for a couple of months and then sold as well because I wanted to get a Note 8 again. Uh, I'd love to have all the phones, honestly. If I could keep all the phones, then I would keep all the phones, but I'm just not there yet. Uh, and also, it just seems like way too, it's like overkill. So, Ray H, you're saying that there's a rumor today that you saw that the Note 9 might use a new 8 millimeter chip. Uh, I don't. I When it gets into the innards of the phone, I know RAM, I know memory, I know all that stuff. Architecture of the chips is not something that I'm super good with. Uh, Dead Dead O'Dowd asks, what do you think about people like iJustine who buy Apple stuff even if the product is pretty clear it's going to be pointless, like the HomePod? Um, iJustine has really covered the hell out of Apple for many, many years. And she came into doing videos, from what I understand of her origin story, she came into doing videos because she bought herself a Mac years and years ago, and she was reviewing that, and so she's been an Apple fan consistently throughout her time on YouTube, and I can't fault her for that. I mean, I think that her Apple fanness is probably totally genuine, but there are times when I just wonder. I don't necessarily agree with the angle that she takes toward her coverage. Like yesterday, she released a video that said, "Should I buy a HomePod?" And everybody knows that you're going to buy a HomePod. You're iJustine, like iPod, iPad. You get it, iPhone. So you're going to get one. You're going to review it. Um, I don't know why you would ask the question, which is weird. And then I started to watch the video, and it was interesting because she she started the video not by talking about whether or not she should buy a HomePod, but instead by talking about the Wix.com commercial that she made. And then she proceeded to show everybody the commercial. And she was like, well, some of you might have YouTube Red and wouldn't have seen the commercial, so I'm going to show it to you. I was like, no, just don't do that. Don't play an ad with yourself on your video. You know what I'm saying. Where's the next big opportunity for Apple? That's a good question. I mean, I think that I think that they need to do something with the iPhone that pushes a little further. Uh, but I just don't know where they're going to go. They've limited themselves intentionally in such weird ways. Their price structure and their model structure is so constricting that it's hard to know what they could do to innovate. I mean, we've got on the computer side, we've got like the Mac Mini that hasn't been updated for 3 something years, and it's not clear whether or not they're going to update it. That was a great value computer, but see a DBR, a DBJR 74. Thanks for coming, man. Um, so yeah, it's one of those things where they've sort of locked themselves into these structures where it's going to be hard for them to innovate across the line. The iMacs that they put out in 2017 were very good. The MacBook Pros, not very good. So I don't know. They're gonna have to figure. They're gonna have to figure out some way. I think they sell too many versions of their products at this point, and I think that's what one thing that really hurt the iPhone 10 was like, oh, here's $1,000 phone, and then here's an 899, a 799, a 699, all the way down the line, and performance-wise, a lot of those phones perform comparably to the newer phones. The newer phones are by far like uh, crazy powerful, like more powerful than most, like some Mac laptops. So it's, you know, do I see Apple going USB-C? See, again, this is the thing. They make so much money off the Lightning port and licensing that Lightning port to other manufacturers, like third-party manufacturers, that they've again kind of painted themselves into a corner where they're making bank on the Lightning connector, and so it's just going to be really hard for them to go away from that connector for the phones and the iPads, but yet they've gone totally USB-C on their laptops. So you would think they would want to merge those things, but they don't own the rights to USB-C the way that they do with Lightning. And so because they make that extra money, and it's just like a total, like if you want to play the Apple game, you are going to pay for that Lightning connector. And so I wish they would. I think that Apple needs to get back to being simple. They were always like a really the simpleness of Apple was the genius of it. Um, and now they just got so many phones, so many desktop computers, so many laptops, so many other configurations that you can get into. I think they just need to simplify. Um, how's the 5 Plus T? How's the 1 Plus 5T been? It's a really nice phone. I had never tried a OnePlus device before I got this phone, and it's a really nice phone. Uh, it's the problems that I have with it are personal problems more than problems with the device. And I'm doing my review, as I said earlier. I'm doing my review in the next couple of days, so I will let you know in more specific details what I think of it on the review. But I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give it away. So let's see. Apple Car. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think that the infrastructure, like if Apple bought Tesla, then that would be the Apple Car. But I just don't think they definitely have the money, but uh, that's an entirely different infrastructure and business model and everything else. So I just don't see them getting into it. Do I think Apple will kill the iPhone SE 6, 6S, 7, and the iPhone 10, and then just have the 8 and the new line coming out? They're not going to kill the SE. The SE is sort of like gravy. I think they have. they have those parts and they can keep making those phones. It was announced the other day that they're not going to update the SE, which in my mind is good because what people like about the SE is that small form factor, that older design that is like totally classic and in my mind the best iPhone design, um, the best iPhone design that they've had. I've never liked the sort of more rounded thing that we've got at this point as much as that. I did like the I did like the design of the iPhone 10. I thought the iPhone 10 had a little bit better, just a little bit bolder, a little bit more aggressive than the 6 through 8. The 8 looked best. The 8 was the best design of that model that they had ever put out for sure. Uh, the glass was really nice, and it just felt like a premium phone. So it's a good question. Tesla's already going to have problems with GM. GM, yeah, I own a Chevy Volt, 2013 Chevy Volt. My wife drives it, and it's a really good car. The problem that Tesla seems to have is the scale. Sorry, is the scalability of their business model. Like they've built a lot of infrastructure to make the cars, but they seem to be having trouble getting the cars out. And so people don't want to wait for uh, 18 months to get a vehicle. But I guess when you got people like MKBHD like just drooling all over your cars in video after video, then that's going to help because he's got 4 or 5 million subscribers. And the thing about a company like GM is they've been making automobiles for more than 100 years, close to 100 years. Uh, and that's always going to help them. I don't. There's a documentary that I think is still on Netflix that if you're interested in the history of the electric car, you should check out. It's called "Who Killed the Electric Car?" And there was a GM model that was piloted in California. I think it had a 100-mile radius, a 100-mile limit to how far it could go on a charge, but they basically gave these cars out and people pilot program for piloting the vehicles, um, and ultimately they pulled the plug. But that was before they really saw the writing on the wall. And I think GM is the company that saw the writing on the wall earliest, and they already had some infrastructure to deal with the battery technology, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that GM is has the opportunity to overtake Tesla. Now um, they might never be as much of a luxury brand as Tesla. The Tesla cars are really awesome, but I was talking to somebody and they were talking about sort of the user interface of the Tesla and how because the dash like console is only a screen, you lose that touch tactile like I need to turn the heat up or I need to press this button. You have to look at the screen and then look back at the road. And I have not driven or ridden in a Tesla, so I don't know. But uh, the interesting thing is, I just drove by one of the grocery stores. I had to take my daughter to piano tonight, and one of the grocery stores had literally, I think, 10 Tesla charging stations, and there's no way that there are even 10 Tesla. I don't think there are even 10 Teslas in this area. I live in Iowa City, Iowa. It's a college town, and it just seems like way wishful thinking to have that many Tesla charging stations. They're not even the universal ones. They're the Tesla specific ones. So I, I don't know. Anyway, let's go on here. Uh, yeah, it does seem extravagant, right? This is not like it's it's a town where there is some money. It's a Big Ten research university, but uh, I don't know. Most of the people that I see driving really expensive cars, like my box and stuff like that, and there aren't very many of them, are actually students from. Most of them seem like they're Chinese students, and they ship those cars. Yeah, I haven't seen a Lamborghini, but I have seen my box. I have seen some other like sport cars. Uh, Thoughts on the new generation of iPads this year? Honestly, like I have a video coming out. I did a little poll on Twitter today. I was thinking about either the 10.5-inch model of the iPad or the 12.9, and I couldn't really make a decision, so I put up a poll on Twitter, and it came out in favor of the 10.5. So I just got a 10.5, and one of the reasons I don't feel so bad about getting a 10 an iPod sort of halfway through this life cycle is I don't think I want to have a bezel-less iPad. Uh, how are you going to hold it? You almost need those bezels to hold the iPad. Uh, so if they go completely bezel-less, it will just be annoying. And if they try and put Face ID on the iPad, that will really annoy the crap out of me. So I want to see where they're going with this. Of course, I'll probably end up getting one to look at for the channel, but do I want it to be my personal device? I don't know. I don't know. With your palms, like just holding it like this? I don't know, man. I don't know. No, Android tablet market today. Um, I don't know that there is an Android tablet market. There used to be like hundreds of Android tablet models out from everybody, and right now it seems like Samsung is the only one playing the game. Uh, and I think their tablets are pretty good, but the iPhones are just, or sorry, the iPads are just so much more powerful, and Apple with iOS 11 has really pushed the what the iPad can do a lot farther toward being a laptop replacement. I still don't like the interface as much as I would like something like the Surface Pro. It's a full scale computer, but there's so much more that you can do with the iPad now that just so much sort of overwhelms any Android tablet that's on the market. I don't see Android catching up and being competitive with the iPad. Any opinion on the Essential phone? Yeah, I I really liked the Essential phone. I The pricing was way off when it came out. I think the Sprint exclusivity of it is was not great. Um, and then they had troubles. You know, they lost their I guess their big tech guy, the guy who helped create Android, had some trouble with the sexual harassment stuff and stepped away for a brief time. I don't know if he's come back. I haven't followed it, um, but there are definitely some problems there, and I've heard that Essential has lost some investors. Andy Rubin, yes, that's right. I couldn't pull it out of my brain. Um, it's yeah. I don't know if Essential's gonna make it, but I do like the phone, and I was hoping to be able to try it. Um, and at this point I have a Verizon account. That's the family account, and then I have a prepaid AT&T SIM because I I got the OnePlus 5T and I couldn't use it on with my Verizon phone. I've gotten other unlocked phones. Verizon just like won't let you use anything, and it just seemed like way too much of a pain in the rear end to try. So I just got a prepaid AT&T SIM. So I don't want to. I don't. I, and Sprint. how can I say this nicely? Sprint sucks. Uh, the times that we did have an account with Sprint years back, and it was so, the way they managed their business is so terrible that, and in fact, I did have a Sprint phone that I was checking out, the LG V30 Plus, and so I just wanted to get it for a couple of weeks and take it back. And I tried to take it back, but I went to the store and they said we can't take it. And then I called I called Sprint and they said take it to the store, and I said, well, they said that I can't take it, and they said, okay, we'll send you a box to ship it back, and they never did. Uh, and then they sent it to collections. But by that time we'd figured out how to get the phone back. So uh, like Sprint and US Cellular are the two companies that I've dealt with that had such bad business infrastructure to run their business and work with customers, like just terrible. So I couldn't deal with them. iPad versus Surface, Face ID or Touch ID from Tub and Chubb. I don't want to know what your name means, dude. Just don't tell me. Um, Touch ID all day. Face ID is cool, but I'd prefer to have the choice of using one or the other. And if I had one or the other, depending on where, like what I was using it for, at what time, I would usually just choose Touch ID because I liked the Face ID when I was using it on the iPhone 10, but it was slower and it was I don't know. I I know a lot of people didn't buy the iPhone 10 because they don't trust Face ID. People are still putting covers over their webcams on their laptops and PCs and stuff. So I think it was a bold move, let's say. But my dog wants to come in the room and I have the door shut. I don't want to open the door because I don't want my dog in here. That's why it's shut. Um, but he's a husky and he's making noise, so I'm gonna go let him in and I'll be back in just a second. What? What can I do for you? I'm coming back. Sorry about that. Um, man, I love my dog. We have three dogs and two cats, and the husky was. We got the husky like right after I stopped drinking, and so he's always been sort of my buddy. But he's been having seizures and sort of not doing very well. Yes, Abbey Road in the background for sure. Um, OnePlus T 5T got Android 8. I haven't looked for the update. I'll have to check it out. So yeah, um, yes, that was Abbey Road. Little hologram thing, poster thing that my wife got for me, and it was. Yeah, what is my favorite Beatles album? It changes all the time. I think. Oh, here he is. Where? Come on, come on. Oh, don't come on. Sorry. Anyway, it changes all the time, and the I think the album I go back to the most is the White Album, but sometimes it's Revolver, sometimes it's Rubber Soul, sometimes it's Abbey Road. The early stuff I really do like, but the later stuff is much more rich and textured, and there's more to hear. So anyway, um, what are you doing? What are you doing, buddy? What? What's up? You want to be on the YouTube? Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna have to check out that Meet the Beatles. That's an interesting choice. I I definitely like those early records. Um, you had to use a VPN to get the and to get yeah, I see what you're saying. I have the White Album on vinyl. I actually have two original copies, one in not so great a shape, and one that's in better shape. And you can tell that they're originals because they have the real stamp on the cover. Uh, Comes with a poster and four portraits of all the Beatles, which are the same portraits that are inside the gatefold. And so I have and so I have two originals. I have a Mobile Fidelity Labs version from the 80s. I have the new box sets are back there. See them? So there they are. So I've got the White Album uh, 5 or 6, 7 times over. Yeah, they have re-released as they've done these remasters and stuff. They have re-released with the poster and the portraits and stuff. It is dark. I like it to be dark in my studio space. I've got hue lights and I've got this giant bright light that's shining in my face. But yeah. So what else are we talking about here? We've covered the iPhone. We've covered the we've covered a lot of stuff, random stuff as always. So I'm going back in the chat here. I see Tub and Chub says, personally, I think that we have so little privacy anyways. Why not get some functionality for it in return? I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with, like, people who get butthurt about privacy on social networks and that kind of thing, like, or Google sending ads to them based on their browsing preferences or whatever. I think you know you can't shut the barn door after the horse is already out. If you're doing the social networks, if you're doing all that kind of stuff, then privacy is kind of out the window for you, and you just have to accept it, and you have to be careful. Um, but the thing about something like Face ID, and we're hearing this with a lot of other cell phone companies, is that they will steal your information. And so Face ID, I mean, could really be scary if it's used inappropriately. So I think that's why a lot of people are nervous about it. But you put so much information into your phone, like hell, your fingerprints. Like, you used to have to go to the sheriff's office to get your fingerprints, but now they just put them in your phone, and that could be information that could be taken. So I don't know what they do with the information. I know that in marketing, there's a lot of information that can be sold to marketers, even if it's just like a phone list or email or whatever. And the I what they could do with the information that's collected on our phones, you could go like super paranoid dystopian, like Big Brother type things, and think about what they could do. Uh, they could really lock us down. But it's sort of like you have to understand that you're giving something up in order to get that functionality. I don't know. I like the features in Face ID where, like, if you want to pay with Apple Pay and you just look at your phone, that was way better than what having to do a fingerprinty thing here or put in a password or any of that stuff. I I thought that worked incredibly well. What are you doing, dog? he's so messed up after he had two seizures today, and just he's not doing well. Um, well, the the iOS interface. Well, I I I understand why a lot of people want it to change and refresh. Uh, I think that it does need something. However, part of what's really attractive to a lot of users with iPhones is that static grid and how easy it is to like organize your stuff and have it there and not have to think about it anymore because you can only do that. A lot of people really like that functionality. So I can't I can't fault them. Uh, I can't fault them, but at the same time, Apple has always been, my way or the highway when it comes to user interface, and that can be frustrating at times. But um, I think they just like that static icon, like anthropomorphic. This is my desktop thing. What's up, buddy? I know you're not doing good. I know. So I know well, placing the icons would be nice, but I get the philosophy even if I don't necessarily 100% agree with it. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Like, give you some options, like toggle between two different kinds of UI. Why are Apple products so expensive? I mean, that's like asking why is the sky blue? I think Apple was the first company to really get the connection between people and devices. And Steve Jobs really did have this vision for utilitarian devices that were also super aesthetically pleasing and just easy to use. They've rolled that over into, you know, making it a lifestyle brand where people are willing to pay for the usability of the devices, but also the status symbol factor that it gives you, whether or not there's uh, you believe that Apple or any phone can give you status. It's become a lifestyle brand, and that's just part of how it's done. Um, Apple customer service, though, I will say, like Apple customer service is really. I've always had great experiences. Going into an Apple store is unlike any other retail experience that I've had. So they definitely put a premium on the customer service, but it is frustrating to be like I want to do it this way and they won't let me. Yeah, yeah, Jason, you're right. The Genius Bar and the apps and stuff. Don't what are you don't knock over my stuff. He's just walking around in circles. Uh, I'm getting close to an hour here, so I'm gonna have to go in a minute anyway. iOS Pro mode. The closest thing I've seen to that is what you can do with the iPad now. Um, now that it has a real functioning dock and it's not entirely a functional file system, but it definitely has more usability and more flexibility than it did in the past. Like the iPad always to me just seemed like a giant slab of icons. And now it's a little bit more dynamic with what you can do with it. So I think they're getting there, but I don't know what they're really trying to do. Are they just trying to iterate on what they've already done, or are they trying to take smartphone and mobile devices somewhere different? You can see the merging where with the iPads that are available now, they're as powerful, if not more powerful, than laptops of similar prices. And well, if you talk PC laptops, like they definitely they're definitely better than some PC laptops in terms of power in there. But but yeah, ultimately, I don't know what Apple is really trying to do, And if they're trying to just say mobile devices are the way to go, maybe they have a 5-year plan to just phase out certain things. But right now they're kind of all over the place with too many phones and just not being able to bring everything together. They got USB-C on one thing, and then they got Lightning. They're kind of all over the place, and they just need to pull it together. So Tub and Shove says, I hope that Apple I hope Apple stops doing so well financially, so that they are forced to become more competitive. I think that a little bit of monetary distress would sort of push them in a direction. I don't know if it would be a good direction, but I think one thing that's good. What's up, buddy? I think one thing that's going to come out of this iPhone 10 thing is that they're going to look back and they're going to say, "Oh, having 8 phones available is probably not the best marketing strategy. We need to have fewer models," and so maybe that'll be somehow motivational for them. Well, guys, I really appreciate you guys showing up and being here on the stream. I have to take care of this dog and try and figure out what's going on with him. When is the next live stream? The next one that I have planned, sometimes I just jump on here, but the next one I have planned is next Tuesday, probably at like 10:30 my time or 8:30 Eastern time or Pacific time with Juan Carlos Bagnell. We're going to get on and do the Q&A that we didn't have time to do in the last stream that we did. So that's next Tuesday, and maybe I'll pop back on here at different times. Gilio, thank you. Thanks everybody for being here. I'm sorry. I gotta take care of this dog and see what's up with him. He wants to be a star, perhaps. He wants to be a YouTube star. That's possibly what's happening. But no, he's with the seizures and stuff. His head is not right. So I gotta see what he needs. Anyway, thanks so much for being here. Again, my name's Jason, sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest, it hurts. It hurts. It really does. Until the next time, guys, I'm out.